All right, let me just close this before we start the class for today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, boys and girls. Let's go with the lesson. I'm going to extract the files from the lab. We're going to use Packet Tracer only today, but it's basically the same configurations. Instead of Ethernet interfaces, we have actually gigabit interfaces, but it's basically the same lab. I did some changes in the preferences, like the font. I'm going to switch it back to 14 here, 14 and 14. I did orange for the text and the black for the background. Let me just click on that. We should be all good. So let's start working on it. Let me share instead of video. Let me work along with the devices. What we're going to do is work with router 1 first and add some configurations, config T. The first thing we need to do is add an IP address to get from router 1 to router 3. So we do the following. We do an IP route. Then we need to get to the loopback IP address of router 3. So that will be 192.168.3.1, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going to double check just to cover all backs. Let me just go to that lab. Where are you, buddy? CCNA labs. And let me just open the other lab information here. Okay, we are right there. So it's actually 200 at 230. Instead of the loopback, we need to get to the destination 200 at 230. So not 120, not 301, but 200 at 230. So we need to correct on that. So let me just work on that right now. Control F. I found the lab. We need to add this first command. So I need to correct this. So the first thing, according to the instructions, and we have to read the instructions, of course. So first, before adding the commands and everything, let's go with the instructions. So lab 5, connectivity between four routers has been established. IP connectivity must be configured in the order presented. To complete the implementation, no dynamic routing protocols are included. We have to configure a static route using the host routes to establish connectivity from R3 to R1 loopback IP address using the source IP address 209.165.200.230. We have to configure IPv4 default route on router 2, destined to the router 4, and IPv6, the same in router 2 to router 4. So let's start with the file. So we go to router 1 and we type the following command. We need to get to this IP address, actually. So it's 209.165.200.230. We have 255 for all of those. I thought it was 252, but for some reason in this lab, they're using 255s. So I'm just repeating the way that they are doing it. You can see it right here. And then we need to get to the next hop IP address. We are in router 1. What is the next hop IP address? That will be this IP address, 226. So let's type that. 209.165.200.226. There you go. If we do an N, we do a WR, we save the configuration. Next, we need to go to router 2 and add some configurations there. So we go to router 2 and we have to do the exact same thing. Get to the IP address of router 1, config T, IP route, and we have to add 192.168.1.1, 255s for all of those. And then what is the next hop IP address if we are in router 2? It will be 209.165.200.225. 225, I'm just going to double check there. Yeah, it is that one. We are good. So if we're in router 2, next hop IP address, that 225. We then do an end and then a WR, save configuration successfully. Let's go to router 3. Let's start doing some magic there in router 3. Let's close router 1 and router 2 so we don't confuse them. And let's work along with router 3. In the actual exam, I don't recommend to close any of the tabs because it's important to have them available, but be careful so you don't confuse any of the routers. Like if you're running the configuration of router 1 in router 3, it could be a chaos, a nightmare. So IP route 192 and 168 and 1.1, all 255s here. And the next hop IP address, if we are in router 3, do you guys know? Okay, it will be 209.165.200.229. And WR, we saved the configuration successfully, and now we have to do something else. We have to configure our route to get to router 4 from router 2. So we go to router 2, and we do the exact same thing we have been doing so far. It's an IPv4 address, config T, and we do IP route. We need to get to the IP address of router 4. That will be 209.165.202.130. All 255s here. Actually, I think it's 240. Let me double check this to see if it changes. Oh, it's actually zeros, all zeros. So it's a default route with all zeros. So this is something different that we need to configure there. Let me just erase this. Luckily, I didn't type enter. IP route, and we have to do all zeros. All zeros to get to the 209.165.202.130. That's the one we were trying to reach. We save that. We do a config T now. And we have to do the IPv6. So we do IPv6 route colon /0. That is the default route for IPv6. We have to get to this IP address, the column 2. Let's validate that in the topology. In fact, it's column 2. So let's add that IP address there. Let's go ahead. We have 2001 column DV8. And then we have column ABCD, column, if I'm not mistaken, and then 2, and then enter, and then end and WR. We save the configurations. Let's do the validation because I forgot at some point validation. So let's go with this. So we can do some validations there. We have to do a ping test to 192 and 168 at 1.1 from router 3. So let's go to router 3, do that. First validation there is a ping test. Let's do a ping 192 and 168 at 1.1. It might fail the first time, but the second time we will get 100%, total 100%. Good. Now we can do the same for router 2. We can actually go to router 2 and do the same. We can do a ping test to 192 and 168 at 1.1. And we can do some ping tests that we need to complete there. Let's do a ping test now to the 209.165.202.130. And it's not working for some reason. You see, I typed it incorrectly. It's not 268, it's 265. So let's correct that. There you go. Great. Now let's do a ping test to the IPv6. Let's do a ping to the 201, 2001 column DV, DV8, number 8. And then we have the column ABCD, column, then 2. Great. So we have successfully confirmed that we have access to all the different IP addresses of the next routers, and we have connectivity between all of the routers at this point. If you want to use only the graphical interface, that I don't recommend, but just to double check, you can actually send packets here using the packet tracer, send a packets from here to here. Hopefully it will work, but if not, I don't know if something is wrong there. Maybe there is something wrong with the packets. That's interesting because we did the ping test and we were able to complete all the connectivity between the routers, but maybe there's something missing in order to have connections from the router 1 to router 3. That's that's maybe we're still missing a route or something. Okay, we're not going to worry about that because we did the validation with the ping commands and we added all the correct configurations so far. So we're not really worrying about that at this moment. What we can do, something else, in order to do the graphic option is to send a ping test from here to here, then send a ping test from each of the routers. And we should be all good. Yeah, everything works successfully. So we're fine. Boys and girls, it's been a pleasure. Please remember to practice, 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 because practice makes perfect. And this has been everything for today's lesson. Take care, and I see you around. Goodbye. Let me just end the recording for today.